see it on your face. Brother, you've been bearing the weight. Sister, you are more than they say. There are whispers of a river flowing in our veins. The hope of the after. Oh, a reckoning day. This is not my home. These aching bones, the fallen, the crucified, will rise with the dawn. Let the kingdom come. This is not my home. This skin and the daylight will raise to life the dead and the gone. Let the kingdom come. Let the kingdom come.
Grapple anybody? You grapple any? Grapple. I used to. Or got
Could I believe in what my eyes cannot see?
black belt, karate and
Or has the antidote to brokenness evaded
I used to look a
me?
lot different than I do now.
Could I believe in what my ears have not heard? Or will the suffering that surrounds me have the final word?
And I mean, I never tried to beat or nothing.
Even on the darkest nights, I know the sun will rise.
I got second place
I
in
will
state
trust the promise I cannot see with my eyes. Even when the clouds surround, I know the sun still shines. But when will it break through? Jesus, I need you.
I did that stuff.
Could I believe in what my hands have not touched? Or will the weight of disappointment apprehend my trust? Could I believe in what my mind cannot know? Or could the number of the stars contain my fragile hopes? Even on the darkest nights, I know the sun will rise. I will trust the promise I cannot see with my eyes. Even when the clouds surround, I know the sun still shines. But when will it break through? Jesus, I need you. When will it break through?
You guys are welcome to stand and worship with us. They say this mountain can't be moved. They say these chains will never break. But they don't know you like we do. There is power in your name. We've heard that there is no way through. We've heard the tide will never
Church. We are glad that you guys are here, and we want you guys, if you will, to stand and sing these next few songs with us. It's kind of a special Sunday. We have 4 singers up here for the first time in ever. So,
Everybody stand
hope you guys enjoy it.
They say sometimes you win some, sometimes you lose some. And right now, I'm losing bad. I've stood on this stage night after night, reminding the broken it'll be alright. But right now, oh right now I just can't. It's easy to sing when there's nothing to bring me down. But what will I say when I'm held to the flame like I am right now? 'Cause I know you're able and I know you can save through the fire with your mighty hand. But even if you don't, my hope is you alone. They say it only takes a little faith to move a mountain. Good thing, a little faith is all I have right now. But God, when you choose to leave mountains unmovable, oh, give me the strength to be able to sing. It is well with my soul. I know you're able and I know you can save through the fire with your mighty hand. But even if you don't, my hope is you alone. I know the sorrow and I know the hurt would all go away if you just say the word. But even if you don't, my hope is you alone. You've been faithful, you've been good all of my days. Jesus, I will cling to you, come what may, 'cause I know you're able, and I know you can. I know you're able, and I know you can save through the fire with your mighty hand. But even if you don't, my hope is you alone. I know the sorrow and I know the hurt would all go away if you just say the word. But even if you don't, my hope is you alone. My hope is you alone. It is well with my soul. It is well, it is well with my soul.
Son. They called him Jesus. He came to love, heal, and forgive. He bled and died to buy my pardon. Empty grave is there to prove my Savior lives. Because he lives, I can face tomorrow. Because he lives, all fear is gone. Because I know he holds the future, and life is worth the living just because he lives. And then one day I'll cross that river. I'll fight life's fight, no war with pain. And then as death gives way to victory, I'll see the lights of glory, and I'll know he lives. Because he lives, I can face tomorrow. Because he lives, all fear is gone. Because I know he holds the future, and life is worth the living just because he lives. He lives, I can face tomorrow. Because he lives, all fear is gone. Because I know he holds the future, and life is worth the living just because he lives. Life is worth the living just because he lives. Because he lives. Because he lives. Because he lives. Because he lives.
For your mercy never fails me, and all my days I've been held in your hands. From the moment that I wake up until I lay my head, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. 'Cause all my life you have been faithful, and all my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, close like no other. I've known you as a father. I've known you as a friend. And I have lived in the goodness of God. 'Cause all my life you have been faithful. And all my life you have been so good. With every breath that I am able, oh, I'm gonna sing of the goodness of God. It's running after me. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. With my life laid down, I surrender now. I give you everything. 'Cause your goodness is running after, it's running after me. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. With my life laid down, I surrender now. I give you everything. 'Cause your goodness is running, it keeps running after me. 'Cause all my life you have been faithful. And all my life you have been so good. With every breath that I am able, oh, I'm gonna sing of the goodness of God. 'Cause all my life you have been faithful. And all my life you have been so good. With every breath that I am able, oh, I'm gonna sing of the goodness of God. Oh, I'm gonna sing of the goodness of God. Alrighty, so junior church, you guys are dismissed. You guys are heading downstairs. Adults meet, greet, and shake hands. Talk about the weather. Talk about talk about your hobbies, whatever you want to do, and we will get the message started here soon.
Also, if anybody has any recommendations for teeth whitening strips, please come talk to me.
No matter where I go, your love is with me. I climbed the highest height and you were there. Why should I be afraid? You go before me. You've seen my darkest night and you weren't scared. 'Cause you never flinch and you never change. Your spirit goes before me as you light my way. Wherever I go, I know you go there with me. You meet me on the mountain and you find me in the valley. Wherever I go, I know you go there with me. I love you in the breakthrough and I trust you in the mystery. capture life for us, keeping me in mind. On that tree you died, 3 days further on, the rising of the sun. Seasons change, but your love still remains. And I just wanna say thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. You are faithful, God, and you're always for me. And I just wanna say thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. All my praise is yours, I give you glory. Made a home in me, and Lord, you never leave. You meet me where I'm at, guiding every step. We'll never part our ways. My heart, your dwelling place is you and me and you forever. And I just wanna say thank you, thank you, thank you. You are faithful, God, and you're always for me. And I just wanna say thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. All my praise is yours, I give you glory. You have saved me, and I will praise you, friend forever. Jesus, thank you. You have saved me, and I will praise you, friend forever. Jesus, I just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. 'Cause you are faithful, God, and you're always for me. And I just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Oh, my praise is yours, I give you glory. And I just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. 'Cause you are faithful, God, and you're always for me. And I just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. All my praise is yours, I give you glory.
All right, good morning, everybody. Good morning, good morning. Hope you're all settling in. So Mike and Connie are on their way to a little vacation. So they're going to be gone the next couple weeks. This week on vacation, and then next week they've got one of our supporting churches invited them to come up. So they're going to be there next week. So if you think of it, pray that they have safe travels because they left right before service. And I think that's it for announcements for this week. But today I want to start out by mentioning one of the Beatitudes that Jesus gave in the Sermon on the Mount, which is, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called sons of God." And we've been talking about forgiveness, and the point of forgiveness is peace, right? Because you're reconciling a relationship, you're bringing out of conflict, out of hurt, out of anger, Out of hate, you're bringing joy and peace and love, right? So the whole point of forgiveness is peacemaking. So today we're going to be talking about kind of the ins and outs of how reconciliation, how forgiveness actually happens when the rubber hits the road. And so when you talk about conflict isn't always necessarily sinful, right? Sometimes it's just misunderstanding, sometimes it's honest mistakes, but conflict happens whether we want it to or not. And especially when you go through a big life change, right? The first time you move out from home and you get roommates, right? There's a lot of conflict because you're bringing a bunch of lives together. And when you get married, right? What happens? You're bringing two lives together. Not only are you bringing two lives together, you're bringing two families together. And every family deals with conflict a little bit differently, don't they? And it's, a lot of times neither good nor bad. Everyone has their own bents and how they deal with it. There's obviously healthier and unhealthier ways of dealing with conflict. But for example, right, my family is a let's deal with it right now sort of family, right? There's a conflict, there's something going on, we just dive in head first into it, right? And that can be a good thing because then there doesn't leave time for feelings to fester and emotions to build, right? And so a lot of times when you deal with something right away, it, stops a lot of hurt and pain down the road. Whereas Allie's family is more of a let's just see if it blows over sort of family, right? They wait and they see if things are going to blow over, which a lot of times can be a very good thing as well because, sometimes someone does something in anger and their temperature cools off, right? And they realize, maybe I overreacted. And then, everything can kind of go back to normal without necessarily that whole reconciliation. Or once the temperature cools down, you can come back and say, hey, sorry, I was out of line. I was just a little bit angry. And so, so either way, it's not bad. It's just different tendencies. But when Allie and I first got married, right, you can see how our different ways of dealing with conflict collided. So whenever I thought there was a perceived hurt or something going on between me and her family, what would I do? I would just jump right into it. I'd bring it up. And they're like, whoa, no, this is not how we deal with things. Back off. And then people would be like, why are you being so aggressive? Why are you doing this? Like, just give it a minute. And then there were more hurt feelings and more conflict. And it took me a few years to realize I need to step back and I need to, learn how they dealt with conflict a little bit better. And it took a little bit of time for them to understand how I dealt with conflict a little bit more so that there weren't as many hurt feelings. And the same thing happened with Allie with my family, right? She was like, oh, no, let's not talk about this right now. And my family was like, no, we're talking about it. And so, it's neither necessarily bad nor good, although they have their strengths and their weaknesses. Right? So this isn't necessarily an easy thing because conflict is always going to happen, both because of our sin and just because we're not perfect, right? We make honest mistakes. We say things that we don't mean as insults but are taken as insults because of just life and our limited understanding. So today, one of the things that we're going to talk about and what we're going to really spend the first half of this sermon on is this graphic here. So this is called The Slippery Slope of Conflict. It's out of a great book called The Peacemaker by a guy named Ken Sande. And he actually runs a peacemaking organization that trains and helps with conflict in churches and with Christians. And this has really helped me personally. But if you look at the graphic, right, you see on the left side, you've got escape responses. And on the right side, you've got attack responses. And then at the bottom of both of those, at the bottom of the slippery slope, both of those lead to death, right? Why do those lead to death? Because sin leads to death, right? We know that sin leads to death. And so when you follow a sinful path of conflict to its natural conclusion, it leads to death. And at the top of the slippery slope, right, both of those can look like, at least at first, like the good response, right? Like, so my family who jumps in head first and tries to deal with things, right? That could be trying to get reconciliation, right? Trying to get forgiveness and healing the relationship right there. But also that can be used as intimidation to try to force behavior without true repentance, without true reconciliation, without true forgiveness. And on the other side, denial oftentimes can look like, at first, overlooking an offense. You're like, no, it's not really that big of an issue. But meanwhile, inside, you're like, that really hurt. Why did they do that to me? And then you're just sitting there in denial that hurts you, and the feelings fester and grow. And the longer you sit on them, the bigger the hurt becomes, right? Because you're denying that there was a hurt to the relationship, and the longer you deny it, the bigger those grudges grow, the bigger those hurts grow, and every little thing after that becomes harder to overlook and harder to reconcile because there's all this baggage building up, right? So we're going to go through these, and we're going to start with the escape response. And we just kind of talked about denial a little bit. But after you deny the problems for a little while, right, and then you finally recognize, okay, no, there really is a problem, you're coming out of denial, what's the next response? Well, if you stay in the escape category and you don't go to an attack response, what you're going to do is you're going to run away. You're going to run away. You're going to, it's flight is the second one. And what this looks like in reality is, I'm sure we all know at least one person who goes through friends really, really fast because they make friends and they build relationships, and as soon as anything goes wrong, what do? They run, they jump out of it, they get out of the relationship. And, this has happened to me a couple times, and it hurts. You're just like, hey, why don't we just deal with the problem? In one of the cases, I didn't even know what the problem was. I was just like, why are you ghosting me? What's going on? But they did not want to deal with the conflict, with the sin issue, and so they just jumped out. And so flight, right, is just cutting off relationships, getting out. And rather than seeking the biblical response of forgiveness and reconciliation and peacemaking, you just run away. And then what is the final form of running away from a problem? Right? It's suicide. It's death. Saying, you know what? I don't want to deal with any of this ever again. I don't want to think about it, so I'm just going to remove myself entirely. And the other side of the slippery slope, and these can be interchanged, right? You can kind of swing from one side to the other in these responses. But, first you've got the assault responses. And that can look like intimidation, like we talked about. It can look like manipulation, maybe being really, really passive-aggressive and guilting and shaming someone to changing their behavior rather than truly having reconciliation and forgiveness. It can also look like, just verbally attacking somebody, using your words to really hurt them, to kick them into line the way that you want them to act, rather than, seeking a restoration of the relationship. And then also it can be, physical attack, physical assault, right? And as I was thinking about this yesterday, I saw this with my own kids, right? We were at little Miss Gwendolyn's 2-year birthday, and one of my girls decided to snatch something out of someone else's hand, and when they didn't let go, what did they do? Shove. You're going down. You're getting out of here, right? And so I had to grab her and take her off to the side and say, hey, no, you cannot do that, right? She's like, well, I wanted it. It's like, that's not the way you deal with conflict. You don't attack somebody to get what you want, right? And so those are the two, the first side of the attack response is the assault. And then next it jumps up to litigation, right? So if you are having a conflict and you don't want to deal with it the right way, you don't want to actually there to be true reconciliation, sometimes the easy way out and the sinful way out is to bring in a third party, namely the government. So what do? You sue them. Not maybe you use lawfare against them. You report something they've done against them. Rather than reconciliation, you are just seeking to destroy the relationship and use the government to get as much out of it as you can, whether it's vengeance or whether it's money through a lawsuit or whether it's just loss of reputation, right? And so that is not the Christian response. In 1 Corinthians 6, Paul says that, in heaven we're going to judge angels. And if we're going to judge angels, what in the world are we doing going to the pagan government to solve our disputes? No, we can solve them within the church. We can bring other Christians, mature Christians in to help us solve these disputes without ruining the relationship and ruining the reputation of the church and the church figures. And then finally is the final attack response, which is murder, right? And then obviously if you're going all the way down the sinful response of the attack in a conflict. You're going to remove the problem not by removing yourself, like the escape response, but by removing the person that you have a problem with. So those are the unhealthy responses. What are the healthy responses? Well, first we got overlook, right? And overlooking, right, is all through Proverbs. It talks about this a lot, right? And it says, a person's wisdom yields patience. It is to one's glory to overlook an offense, right? So it is a wonderful, glorious thing when we can just overlook a response. And most of us do this without even thinking, right? A good example of this is, I'm sure every family has that one person that is not a morning person. Maybe you have a friend who's really not a morning person. And maybe you greet them in the morning and they're just like, get away from me, and call you a nasty word, right? Well, yeah, that was wrong, but you also know as soon as they're awake and have had their coffee, and you say, hey, you did that and it really hurt, they're going to be like, oh, I'm so sorry. I was in a bad mood. It was the morning. You know how it is. And so you can just overlook that, right? And in fact, in the New Testament, Ephesians 4:2 says, be completely humble and gentle. Understand that we all make mistakes. We all have bad moods where we hurt other people. And sometimes we even hurt other people unintentionally, right? And so we should be humble and gentle, patient, bearing with one another in love. And that often looks like just overlooking an offense if we can overlook it. But what if we can't overlook it? What if it comes to a point where there is a conflict or a hurt that we can't overlook anymore? Well, this is what we talked about last week, right? Reconciliation. And 2 Corinthians 5:18 says that Christ gave us the ministry of reconciliation. This is part of our job description as Christians, is to be reconciled with one another. And the first step in that is making sure that we're reconciled to other people. That involves forgiveness. That involves peacemaking. So we need to understand that this is a key part of our faith, is when there's a problem that we can't overlook, we need to seek forgiveness or ask for forgiveness. But this is really simple in the steps, but in reality it gets really complicated, because often when someone wrongs us, what do? We respond in the same manner, right? We get angry too, and we hurt them back. And so usually when there's conflict, it's because both people or groups of people have hurt each other. And so a good way to deal with this, and a biblical way to deal with this, is exactly what we talked about last week, right? It's if you've got to ask for forgiveness, even if you didn't start it, even if you weren't the one who committed the gravest wrong, you should still go and say, hey, I responded wrongly. I did a bad thing. I hurt you and I should not have done it. Will you forgive me? And once you have asked for forgiveness and it's been granted, then you can say, but also, can we agree that what you did was also wrong, that it hurt me? And you can work through it that way. But sometimes there are hurts and conflicts that are so big that's not good enough, right? When someone seriously betrays trust, when someone really just steps in and destroys a relationship, right? Like, let's think of like a spouse, like a husband cheating on his wife, all right? When that happens, if she finds, like, adult material on his computer and finds out he's been, after work going out and having an affair with the secretary or whatever it is, right? It's going to take more than just oh, yeah, I forgive you, right? There's going to need to be trust rebuilt in the relationship. And that's where negotiation comes in. Negotiation. And so, a lot of times in a situation like that, what you'll see is the husband will say, you know what? I'm going to give up all of my privacy. I'm going to give up my free time so you don't have to worry about what I'm doing, right? I'm going to call you when I get to work. I'm going to call you when I leave work, and you're going to know how much time I've been spending, and you're going to know where I am. Maybe I'm going to give you software so you can track everything on my phone, where I am, what I'm doing, what websites I'm visiting, so you don't have to worry about me and what I'm doing, right? And so sometimes there's negotiation where you have to give up something in order for the forgiveness to happen, in order to show that you have repentance and that the person can truly forgive and start to rebuild the relationship, to bring peace back, to bring reconciliation. you need to give something up. And a great example of this is Zacchaeus, right? We all know Zacchaeus, the wee little man. And, Jesus said, hey, I'm going to dine with you tonight, Zacchaeus. Zacchaeus was a bad guy. He was a fraudster. He was a thief. He was a tax collector. And so Jesus is eating at his house, and everyone's standing outside the house being like, look at Jesus, eating with tax collectors and sinners. Come on, like this is so bad. And then Zacchaeus knows this is happening. He stands up and he says, behold, Lord, the half of my goods I give to the poor, and if I've defrauded anyone of anything, I restore it fourfold. And Jesus said to him, today salvation has come to this house, since he is also a son of Abraham, for the Son of Man came to seek and to save the lost. So what did Zacchaeus do when he realized, oh, I have done wrong, I have hurt other people? He immediately said, I know this is going to take more than just, oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I know I've stolen from all the people in this community, but I'm sorry, right? Everything's good? No. He said, in order to show that I'm truly repentant, not only am I going to restore and pay restitution to the people that I've wronged, but on top of that, I am going to show that I am no longer being mastered by my greed. I am no longer being mastered by my love of money. So what did Zacchaeus do? He gave half of everything he owned to those who were less fortunate than him. So then not only was he paying the restitution, but he was showing, hey, I am truly sorry. I want to fix my reputation. I want to fix my relationships with the people around me. And that is going to cost me something. That is negotiation. And if we look back at the slippery slope, the last three we don't have time to talk about today. But those are when you bring in a third party, you bring in the church to solve it. Whether you just bring in a mediator to suggest how you can fix it, whether it's an arbitration where you actually give some people in the church authority to say this is how you're going to fix this and hold you accountable to it, or whether there's actually accountability where after the arbitration, they're like, okay, well, you didn't hold up your end of the bargain, so there's going to be consequences, right? But those are the final steps, but hopefully none of us ever have to deal with those big of conflicts in our life. So the question is, why is this important? Why am I talking about this today? And the reason I'm talking about this is because that chart that has been really, really helpful to me. Because not only does it kind of give me an outline of what are the possible responses, and am I responding biblically or not, but when I'm in conflict, often it helps me diagnose my reaction and see if I need to ask for additional forgiveness, right? And I know that, as I mentioned, my first response is usually the assault response, to attack the problem, to attack the conflict. And if that doesn't work and I don't start responding biblically and seeking the reconciliation, the forgiveness, then what I tend to do is I tend to run to the escape responses. I tend to flee the relationship. I tend to flee the problem. And then all that guilt and that shame weighs down on me, and I start to despair. I start to get depressed, right? And so when I feel a lot of despair, when I feel a lot of depression, when I feel a lot of anxiety in my life, I usually can look in my life and see the conflicts that I'm currently running from. I can see the conflicts that I've not dealt with, and I can see how heavy they're weighing on me to affect my mood, to affect my emotions. And so for me, this is a helpful chart because it helps me diagnose and then do something about the problems in my life. And so if you want a copy of this, you can either get it online or I can send it to you. But it is really helpful when you're going through conflict to kind of be able to think through the steps of, have I done the right things? Or maybe I'm specifically doing the wrong things in a conflict in my life and it's having consequences in how I feel and how I'm acting, in the guilt and the shame, the depression that I'm feeling. And so if that's where you're at, that's why we're talking about this, because it is helpful in just your day-to-day life. But not just that, right? The forgiveness is at the center of our faith. It's the center of the gospel. Every time that I ask forgiveness, I'm being reminded of the beginning of my faith when I turned to God and said, God, will you forgive me I have wronged you, I've wronged others, and I need forgiveness. I want to reconcile my relationship to you, and I know I can't do it. You're the only one that can do it. So will you save me? Will you reconcile this relationship? Will you pay my debts? So every time I ask for forgiveness, I'm being reminded of the start of my faith and the humility that it took to start there, and how I'm just preaching the gospel to myself and reminding me of what God has done for me. And every time I forgive another person, I am preaching the gospel to them. I'm saying, hey, the reason that I'm forgiving you is because I am forgiven. Because I am forgiven. The reason that I'm loving you is because God loved me first, and he forgave me first, so I'm going to do the same thing for you. And it doesn't mean that there's not necessarily consequences, especially in really big betrayals of trust and betrayals of relationship, but it does mean that you can start that reconciliation. You can start that peacemaking process. And this is so important because we are reminding ourselves of both the foundation and the fruit of our faith, which is asking for forgiveness and giving forgiveness to others, loving others and giving peace and reconciliation through forgiveness. And so the way I want to close today is actually by just reading a few verses out of Colossians. And I want to read this as a prayer, right? That this is a hope that we will all have for ourselves and for each other, that God would work through us and in us in what Paul is writing to the church, and that this would be our hope and this would be what we live. Because when we're not in conflict, we do want to be encouraging one another and uplifting one another and helping one another, and a lot of times that's what we need to do. So just let's read this together and just think of it as a prayer over us today. Therefore, as God's chosen people, holy and dearly loved, clothe yourselves with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. Bear with each other and forgive one another. If any of you has a grievance against someone, forgive as the Lord forgave you. And over all these virtues put on love, which binds them together in perfect unity. Let the peace of Christ rule in your hearts, since as members of one body you were called to peace. And be thankful. Let the message of Christ dwell among you richly as you teach and admonish one another with all wisdom through psalms, hymns, and songs from the Spirit, singing to God with gratitude in your hearts. And whatever you do, whether in word or deed, do it all in the name of the Lord Jesus, giving thanks to God the Father through him. Let's all go out and be peacemakers this week. God bless.